Hello, my moonies. We are going to make a badass cup today. So we started off with using Heaven Sent by PDB Creative Studio. It is a beautiful blue glitter. I will link their website down below with my coupon code. This is my infamous watercolor 420 cup. So the first steps is glitter and epoxy till smooth. The next step, you're gonna get whatever vinyl design you want to put on the cup. In this case, I'm doing my 420 skull cup. So make sure you cut it out in removable vinyl, my moonies. Make sure it is removable because we will be removing it at the end. This is the peekaboo style 420 cup. So right now I'm just placing my design where I want it. Everything that the vinyl is covering up, like all where the vinyl is gonna be removed to peekaboo that beautiful glitter underneath. So that everything where you're gonna put the vinyl is where the glitter will be showing underneath at the end. So I put my skull design on. Now I like to put a name on these. These names are different strains of Mary Jane. And in this case, it is called Blue Dream. So where I put that name is where I'm gonna be focusing my deepest colors, most of my colors when it comes down to the alcohol ink part. So definitely make sure you keep that in mind. It's just the way I prefer to do it. You can do it whatever way you want to do it. If you want to do the whole cup in the alcohol ink technique, you can. If you want to do what I do and have it like cascading down in one section and then ombre it out, that will be the way I'll be teaching y'all today. So once you're done with putting your vinyl everywhere, I go in and I spray paint my cup 2 times. I love using Sugar Coated by Color Shot. That is my go-to spray paint for any of my cups that is going to be white. It is like a true white, and this is what it looks like right here. You have to spray paint it minimum 2 times. You can do it 3 times, whatever works for you. Make sure it fully dries. I let mine sit and dry for a few days, just to ensure that the spray paint is fully dry. Now these are all 5 alcohol ink colors I'll be using. They are by Jen's Crafted Gems. They are just all her blues, just in different tones and shades. I will be linking her website down below. I like to start off by putting all the colors in each section and let it sit there because we will be going in towards the end of the technique and darkening up certain areas with these colors. So here's the cup spray painted. I know you can't see the vinyl. You can kind of see it, but not too much, but it is there. Once it is completely dry, this is why I let it sit for a few days, we are gonna start the alcohol ink process. The supplies you'll need is a small fine paintbrush, a little sponge dabby tool. I prefer to use 91% isopropyl alcohol. And then I take that isopropyl alcohol, which is in this little spray bottle, and put some in that open little spot right there because we will be dipping into that a lot. And you will be using the misting of the alcohol towards the end. So you will need a little spray bottle. So this is where the name is right there where I pointed. And then that is where the skull is. We are gonna wanna start with our lightest color. It is so much easier working from light to dark than it is working from dark to light. So I take her lightest color, blue, which is from her pastel pack, and I focus that on the center of where that name is and go farther out as well because we will be ombreing these colors out, and I put it all over that section. Like I don't just dab it in certain area, I literally put it all over that particular section and then cascade it out a little bit farther into the white area that I typically keep open. It just makes it a lot easier when we're blending out the light blue to make sure that that light blue doesn't get muddied up with all the darker color blues. Once you use that one, you'll go into the next shade blue, which is the next lightest, and you'll sporadically dab it, still staying where that light blue is, just don't go out too far to the edges, but just start spreading it in different spots. This is a trust the process cup, my Moonies. It is gonna look like poo-poo before it looks beautiful. Just trust the process. So this is that next lightest shade that I was talking about, and see how I'm just dabbing it in certain areas and then moving and leaving like some white spots in between those areas. That is still where that name is, but you want to leave open spots for the next tones of blue. Then I'm going into the third lightest, and again, just sporadically placing it in those areas. I'm still keeping that big white open space because that's the part is where it's going to stay white, and then we're going to wisp all those edges out. Then I go in with the next darkest. The final darkest blue, I'm gonna try to focus that mostly in the middle. I don't want to put too much of it on the edges because, again, this is ombreing the alcohol inks out, so you don't want a lot of dark on those edges. And again, just a reminder, it is a trust the process cup. Also, keep in mind you are working with alcohol inks, Moonies, as well as isopropyl alcohol. You want to keep moving and not stay in the same spot working with these, because remember, alcohol will pull up the paint, the spray paint that's below, because it is not epoxied. We did not epoxy over that because it is a peekaboo cup. So right now I dipped the edge of that same sponge into that alcohol and I dabbed it on the paper towel. That is key because the sponge will soak up a lot of alcohol, and if you don't have control over it and it starts dripping, it could ruin your entire design. So I'm just blending everything in and getting those big cells with this sponge. That's the whole reason why I'm using the alcohol and the sponge and staying towards the middle. I'll dab a little bit on the edges, but I mostly stay towards the main colors to open up and blend those colors together and create those bigger cells. You can start seeing it come together right here. Little by little, you'll see it. Now we're gonna be using the paintbrush for most of the way. So you're just gonna dip into that same alcohol that you have set to the side, and you're gonna focus on the edges only. You don't wanna take this paintbrush and dab in the middle of where you put all those colors. Just stay on the edges, and what I do is I just tap and drag. I tap on the edge and I'm dragging it towards that lighter color. All I'm doing is feathering these alcohol inks out. You want to manipulate the alcohol inks, but you also want them to do their own thing. That is the beauty with working with alcohol inks. You have control with manipulating them, but you also want them to wisp out and create the cells and the veining that it just automatically creates when you introduce more alcohol into the ink. Now keep in mind, again, we are working on top of a spray painted base cup. So if you notice, I'm working from the top of the cup and I'm working down to the bottom of the cup, but I'm not staying at the top of the cup for long. I'm wisping it out and then I'm moving to the next section. It's giving me time to let that alcohol that I just put down over those inks gives it a little bit of time to dry before I come back in and mess with it some more. That is the key, is to work in sections and just keep moving and then come back and revisit the section that you already played with, because that gave it time to dry and you're not going to pull up that spray paint underneath and reveal your glitter. That's what you don't want to happen. So if you're noticing, I'm still staying on the edge and I'm just tapping and dragging. That's all I'm doing, Moonies. You just tap and drag, work with the ink that you already put on your cup. Make sure you go ahead and wipe off your paintbrush onto your paper towel if it becomes too saturated with the blues and you need to feather out the light colors more. That's exactly what I'm doing right now, is I'm trying to get those light blues to feather out without getting a lot of the darkness coming, because I want it to look like it's ombreing from dark to light smoky blue, if that makes sense. And the key to achieve that is just staying on those edges first. Once we feather out and tap and drag all where we want the light blues to be, that's when I'm gonna go in, of course, refilling the alcohol section and move and manipulate the darker parts of the ink and bring them forward. That's when you don't want to mess with the lighter colors anymore because your paintbrush will be saturated with more of those dark blues. This is why you want to feather out your lighter colors first. So here's a closer look of what I do. I'm taking the alcohol and I'm just tapping. You see how I'm just tapping and dragging, tapping and dragging. I'm letting that alcohol ink with the alcohol that's on my brush manipulate those inks to create these beautiful, like veining, wispy, almost like smoky fire texture. It's hard to explain, but it's just beautiful. But we're just tapping and dragging. And now I'm working on the next section. I'm leaving that light blue alone that I messed with, and I'm messing with the next layer of the blues and bringing it out so it's kind of ombreing into that lighter blue that we messed with. This is when you can go ahead and move more towards the middle where your darker blues are and kind of manipulate that down into the lighter blue part. I can't talk. But again, kind of stay away from that lighter blue because your paintbrush will be fully saturated with those darker blues and you can mess up all of your work. So if you want to get that blue a lot lighter, fill up your alcohol, the alcohol section with fresh alcohol. Make sure your brush doesn't have a lot of the blue on it, and just take it and stay on the white. That white, and barely wisp out that blue. Y'all can't really notice on camera the difference, but in person it is super light baby blue right there that I'm messing with. It's like the watercolor look. This is why I say alcohol inks are like playing with watercolor paint. Instead of water being your activation solution, alcohol is your activation solution, and it just does its own thing. So I'm gonna let y'all watch what I do here, and then you're gonna repeat that same process on the other side. So I'll let y'all watch. All right, so once I got the edges how I like it on both sides, this is when you're gonna start taking your paintbrush and dipping into those colors of alcohol that we had set to the side. This is when you start deepening up those middle sections or whatever sections you want darker. Dip directly into that alcohol ink and put it where you want it. And then you can blend it out between the sponge and your paintbrush. But this is how it turned out. It's so freaking pretty, and I absolutely love doing this technique. After you're done with that, you can go ahead and mist it with isopropyl alcohol to create those really small baby cells that are hard to create with the paintbrush. I let this cup sit for a full 24 hours before I come in and remove the removable vinyl that we put on at the beginning of this video to reveal the beautiful glitter that's underneath. Please keep in mind and be careful when you pull this off so you don't accidentally scratch or damage all of your work you just created, because remember, all this work was done over a spray painted base. This has not been epoxied, so you remove the removable vinyl. You want to make sure you don't scratch up all the work that you did. So once you're done with removing all of the vinyl that you had for the peekaboo section, I go ahead and take the name that I did cut out of vinyl in this beautiful script and put it in that name section that I kind of peekabooed out, where it looks like once you put the vinyl on it, it'll look like the name is outlined in the glitter. I love doing this. It kind of gives it a 3D look. It's my favorite thing. But as you can tell, this is why I like to do the alcohol ink technique around the name and wisp it out around the skull. It just makes that name pop even more. But look how beautiful it turned out. It's going to get its final coats of epoxy. I absolutely love this. If y'all recreate it and put your own twist on it, please tag me in the videos. If this tutorial was helpful, please like, comment, and share.